my making stuff with bargain bead box video, I made this bracelet and this necklace with all the beads I had left over after doing a couple other projects in the box. And so I decided that instead of doing this one on video, I would do another one and make it an independent video. This is the one I've made with my own beads. And you can see there's a little bit of difference because I made this one with 6 strands and this one with 4 strands, this set. So this one's a little fuller. But this is the one I make on video today. And I've incorporated some large maple leaves that, right here, that I'll get you close, that you can get at the sister store, Bead Box Bargains. I just figured out today they have a whole bunch of the large maple leaf beads on sale for pretty cheap and all different colors. So if you want some of these bigger maple leaves, and I also use just some regular check glass leaves, which were just from my stash, but you can get some of those bigger maple leaves. They're really pretty, and you can get them on sale right now at the sister store, Bead Box Bargains. I also used a bunch of gemstones in here, and every gemstone I used was sent to me from Shirley at Budget Bead Box. So if you like the gemstones and you don't have any, you can contact Shirley, and if you don't see them on her site, ask her about them. She'll help you with them. She's really good about that. So this is what we're going to make today, is this set. And let's go ahead and look what's needed to make this set and get started. Okay, so for this project, you just pick out whatever you want. I've tried to kind of color coordinate mine a little bit with these gemstones that have basically the same tones in them, and then bring out some of the brown in that with this gemstone. And these are glass beads, I believe. I may or may not use them, but it has both the colors in it. And I think I got this from a curated bead box. And then I've just got some pearls and some different size crystals, some big crystals, and a whole bunch of check glass leaf beads. And I think these maple leaves came in a box from Potomac Bead Company. So whatever you've got, just make a bead soup from past bead boxes, from whatever is extra in your room, different shapes, different sizes. Make it kind of color themed if you'd like, or just make it confetti if you want, different colors. However you want to do it, it doesn't matter. You can do this anyway with any bead. So I'm not going to leave an exact description of what I've got here. I've just got multiple sizes and shapes. I'm going from like 8mm, 6mm. I've got this oval shape, and these are 6mm. These are 4mm. These are probably 6 by 8 or 6. Maybe it is around 6. So just, you know, whatever size you want. And I've got these great big huge crystals too. They're probably closer to 12mm. So whatever you want, you mix it together, kind of take some time picking out your colors, whatever you want. You'll need 2 shank buttons. And then you're going to need some S-Lon cording. You can use waxed cord if you want to, but this S-Lon cording works really good for knotting. This I bought a long time ago at a bead store in Nebraska, and I got 2 of them with just a multiple selection of different colors. Now whether you can get those still or not, I don't know, because I literally bought them years ago. But you can get S-Lon cording online. Just put in S-Lon bead cord, or go to Beadsmith because it's by Beadsmith, or go to Fire Mountain or Potomac, any of the bigger bead companies. You should be able to get this cording. And this is some jewelry and metal glue, because I like to harden the ends of the cord a little bit more with some glue, and I like to put a little bit on my knots when I finish. So that's basically all you're going to need, besides a pointy pair of tweezers. We are going to learn to tie knots with tweezers. So anything that you've got that's pointy that you can slide your threads off of will work, or you can get some knotting beading tweezers online too. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up my beads and get some piles going here, and then we'll come back and we'll cut some cord and get started. So as you can see, I have a lot of, you don't have to necessarily have this many beads, but this is basically what it turned out to be after I took it out off of all the strands. But I plan on making this pretty full. So, and the last set that I made, I only made 4 strands. I'm going to make this one a 6 strand, and I intend to put the beads a little bit closer together than I did before. And the more you knot, the more thread you're going to need also. So I picked out this brown S-Lon cording, and I am going to just measure it like 4 feet for the bracelet. Now, for the necklace, we will measure more. But for the bracelet, I'm going to just slide it through my fingers like this and just measure 4 lengths of the ruler here. And then cut it. And then I'm going to grab my roll here, maybe. Let's see, where'd you go, you little turkey? And I'm going to put the 2 strands together like this, and and nothing's going to cooperate because, you know, it just can't, it just won't. Put them together like this, and then I'm just going to pull my cord until I get exactly the same length of the other one. So I'm just pulling it off and making them taut so that it ends up to be the same length, like this. And I'm going to do this 3 times, which will give me 6 strands because I'm going to double them. Now, if you want more strands, you'll do more of your lengths here. But just know that every length you cut is going to be 2 strands on your bracelet. So I'm going to cut this here. And now that I have cut 3, I will have a 6 strand bracelet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ends together here, and then I've got a shank button. Now I don't have a big one because I don't want it to be really bulky on my wrist or the back of my neck on my necklace or my bracelet. So I've got a fairly small one with a decent size shank inside. And now the bigger your shank, the more thread you can get through. Now this this one isn't all that big, but I'm pretty sure I can get 3 strands through, yeah. So I'm just going to pull it through like this. Let me move some of these beads back so you guys can see what I'm doing here. And then I'm just going to pull this to the center of my cord. So I will just take my ends, all 6 of them, put them together the best I can. So I'll just arrange this end and pull this to the center of my cord like this. So I've got my ends together down here. Let me make sure they're actually together. And you're not going to keep them perfect, but you want to keep them as straight as you possibly can on the ends here. Make sure you don't have 1 or 2 that are really a lot longer than the others. Okay, once you've centered your shank button on your threads and you have them pretty much the same at the end here, they're not going to be exact, but get them as close as you can, then you're just going to tie a knot by wrapping them around your fingers and then pushing the button through the space here. And then we're going to move this knot up towards the button by just pulling gently and then pushing it down. Pull gently and push down. You can see I'm just moving it as close to the shank button as I can get it. See, I'm just continuing to move it forward. It's going to look kind of messy, and that's okay. Just get it as close to the button as you can. Of course, you want it to move a little bit on the button, but you want it as close as you can get it. Now, once I have it pretty much where I want it, then I'm going to just start pulling on the individual strands to tighten them so that my knot isn't all straggly. So I'm just pulling on each and every thread here. And then I end up with a pretty decent knot like this. And it's pretty close to my shank, and yet the button still moves nicely. So let me get you really close so you can see how much space I've got. Just about like that. And that's perfect. And then let's back off here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take one thread at a time. So just separate one from the mass here and just pull it to the side. And we're going to decide where we want our beads to start. I want it to start right about here on this strand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this thread around my fingers, bring it through my fingers. Bring it through my fingers like this. And now I have a loop like this. I'm going to grab my tweezers just so I get my knot exactly where I want it. I'm going to grab to the inside of the knot here, of the loop, right where I want this to be, and I'm just going to pull this thread down to my tweezers and pull it tight. Now this first knot, it really doesn't matter. You don't have to have perfect technique. Just get it where you need it to be. You can even tie it without the tweezers if you think you can guide it there. And I'll show you exactly how to tie each one now that we've got this on the thread. But the first thing I usually do is this thread is pretty stiff, but for my pearls, my glass pearls, it doesn't always go through, and I end up having to maybe poke my little tweezers or my bead reamer through the pearl, and then I still can't get it on here because it's not stiff enough. So I take a little bit of my glue and I just put some on the end. You can also do this with fingernail polish, some clear fingernail polish. You can just put it on there. And you get it on your fingers if you do it my way, but I just kind of touch it like this so that there's not big globs on it. And then I just set it aside and let it dry, and then I'll cut the end in an angle. And this will go through my beads better. So I'm going to give this just a minute to dry, and we'll be back. Now my thread is dry and it's pretty stiff. I could add a little bit more. I probably took a little too much off. It's not horribly stiff, but it's good enough. Then I'm just going to cut this at a little bit of an angle like this. And then I can go ahead and slide on whatever I decide to put on here first. Now with these pearls, let's see if one will actually go on. Those are the hardest ones I find. See how it doesn't want to go through the end? And so a lot of times I have to open it up, and this is not the best way to treat your tweezers, but I have a bead reamer somewhere, but right now I'm just going to do that and see if this will go through. And those are the ones that I find are the worst because these glass pearls are painted. So you may have to manipulate them on a little bit. Then just bring your first bead down to that knot that you tied. And then you're going to wrap it around your two fingers, pull your fingers out, bring your thread through just like you're tying an overhand knot, just like that. And now you can see how this part of my circle that I created kind of overlaps the thread that the bead is on. You're going to put your tweezers into the loop you made and on that thread right behind the pearl, just like this, and then you're going to pull the long length of the thread and it'll guide itself right down to that pearl. Pull your tweezers out and either use your fingers or your tweezers to push that bead or to push the knot tight against the bead, just like that. And you've got a nice little knot. Now you can do these as close or as far apart as you want. Some of them I space a little bit further, some of them I space a little bit closer. And I think I'm just going to put this one right up next to the next one. So I think I will go ahead and put one of these on. And then I will do the same thing. I'll just wrap around a circle like this, pull the thread through the circle, the long part. Now I've got my circle overlapping the thread that my bead is on. I'm going to place my tweezers onto that thread, behind the bead, and then, so I'm going through the loop with my tweezers, and then I just pull the long thread. And I keep pulling till it's as tight as I can get it. Pull my tweezers out, and then just scoot that knot up against the bead, just like that. And we have a nice knotting. Now, if you want to space them out a little bit further, I'll show you how to do that too. Then you'll have to tie a knot a little bit further down, put your bead on, and tie another knot. And we'll do that on another thread. But since I've started them close together on this one, I'm just going to continue, and I'm just going to pick my beads up randomly and just put them on here. So I have made my overhand knot, because I did that a little fast. I'll do one slower next time. And then I'm going to go into the loop I created with my overhand knot, just like this, grab onto the thread, and then pull the long length of thread. And then bring your tweezers out and scoot that knot down. Now when you very first start this, you might get a loose knot or two, but it's really pretty simple to master. You may want to just take one piece of thread and tie a few of them to practice first if you've never done it before. And then once you get it mastered, then start making your necklace. That way you don't have to worry about trying to untie these knots, because they're difficult to untie. So you can do it like that, just practice, and then you'll get the hang of it pretty quickly. I'm going to put a crystal on this time. And we'll tie one a little bit slower, since I just, went to town there. So I've got my bead on. We're going to go around the fingers. I move my fingers out because they just get in my way. And then I just push the long thread through. And as I'm holding my circle like this, you don't have to let go of it like I've been doing. I've been doing that so you can see what I'm doing. Hold on to it, reach into the loop, and grab the thread on top of your bead, and then bring your long thread, tighten it, pull on it, don't bring it, tighten it, or bring it, I guess. You can bring it. And then pull your tweezers out and push it down again. Let's do one more. And I'm just picking up random beads. It doesn't really matter what you pick up. And after I establish this one, then I'll look at it and, kind of decide what I want the next one to look like and what beads I want to put where, so that all the same colors don't end up in the same spot, and just kind of figure out how I want to do it. And we'll continue knotting. So I've got my overhand knot, I'm reaching in and pulling it down, taking my tweezers out and pushing on it. And we'll go till we have about 6 inches of beads on here. Unless you have a bigger wrist, then you can go to whatever length it is that you need, and I'll show you that in more detail once I get to that point. I'll put a little smaller bead on here. Wrapping around my fingers, releasing my fingers from the circle, pulling the long part of the thread through the circle, grabbing into the circle and getting the thread on top of the bead, and then pulling the long part of the thread until it's as tight as I can get it, pulling my tweezers out and pushing down the knot. Now if it didn't get real tight, you can use your fingernail to push it down too, or just use your tweezers again, however you want to do it. You can also put your next bead on and push it down, so you can just grab your next bead and push on the knot. Now, one thing that you might find, and that's exactly what it is, these beads have big holes in them. So the knots that I'm tying with the thread I have, they're just going to slide over the knot. So I probably will end up not using these beads simply because they will not stay where I put them with the knots. Some beads have really large holes and it just doesn't work. I'm going to see if this crystal will actually go on here, because it might have a big hole too. See, yeah, it slides over that too. So I'll probably find a different crystal, because I want some bigger beads, some bigger crystals. Or I could, when I do this, I could double knot it. Let's see how that works. So I'm just going to make another one, put this plier on top of the knot that I just created, and draw this one down, pull the tweezers out, push that knot down, tighten it a little bit. And now I have a bigger knot there, and then I can put my crystal on, because I really would like to use these crystals. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, I think that'll be okay, because I don't want this to be like a really perfect looking thing anyway. I just want it to be kind of fun and just, you know, a little rustic looking, and so that works. So I'm going to tie another one here. And I'm going to push it down, and then I'm going to grab a hold of it before the bead falls over here. So I'll make another knot. I'll grab a hold of it, that previous knot, and I'll pull my thread down. And that should solve the issue of big hold beads. So, I mean, if you have an actual big hold bead, it's not going to work. But if you just have a yeah, and so my knot slid away. So what I've decided to do to fix my mess up is because I'm experimenting here, I'm going to tie another knot, and I'm going to bring it down on top of the original knot again. Now I've got a pretty good size knot, and I'm just going to use one of these big beads with the big hole and slide it down and push on it to tighten it. And that actually works okay. See? So you can figure out ways to fix it if you mess up a knot. But generally, if you just don't have really big hold beads, you won't have to worry about it. Some bead holes are just a little bit bigger than others, and it just doesn't work well. And of course, you can just choose another bead instead of going through all this I'm going through. But because I'm being stubborn, I'm doing this. See if I can actually do this time. Yep, I did it. So the knots aren't quite as perfect, but like I said, doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not going for perfect. So that's actually working out well. Now, if I was knotting pearls or something where I wanted it all to be absolutely perfect, that would not be ideal right there. That would not be the way to fix things. But since that's not what I'm doing, then it's a way to salvage my piece. So that's what I've done. So I'm going to continue knotting beads on here. And then after I get this strand to the point that I want it, I will show you where I'm at, and then we'll start our next strand. And then we'll just do all 6 strands until we have the same length of beads on each one. Okay, so as you can see, I have beaded about 7 inches from the knot here to the end here on my first thread. And that's going to go around my wrist like this. So it does touch where the button comes, but once I have the bulk of this bracelet, it's going to add more, I'm going to need more length. So I've gone ahead and gone the full length of my wrist. Now, if you're making this for someone else, you just need to know if they're an 8-inch, 6-inch. If they're a big person, go about 8 inches. If they're a small person, go about 6 inches. If they're medium, go about 7 inches. Because even though the wrist may be 7 and you only want to go about 7.5, you've got to realize that this is going to have bulk, and that's going to take some of the length away. So now that that's being said, I'm going to start my next thread, and I think I want my bead up higher this time. So my first knot, I'm going to put really close to this knot so that I have a little bit, I have a bead up here closer to the shank button because that's a little bit far away. So I'm going to go a little closer. So I'm going to make my circle, and I am going to place my, there's a bead in there, place my tweezers really close to that knot. Not right on it, but pretty close to it. And bring my knot up a little bit closer, so this time I'll have a bead closer to the top. And I'm going to spread these beads out just a little bit so I can show you how to do that if you want to make each strand a little bit different, or if you just want more space, if you want to use less beads, however, just to get the look you want. I'm going to grab one of these little brown beads and I'm going to bring it up and go ahead and tie my knot like I normally would. Make my circle, bring it through, grab my tweezers at the top of the button here, and top of the button, top of the bead, and then just slide this right down like that. And then I'm going to tie another knot first because I want to spread these apart a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and make my loop just like I normally do. And I'm going to bring my tweezers in just a little bit away from the first knot. I don't want these too far apart because when they're really far apart it kind of looks sloppy to me. But sometimes, you know, that's the look someone wants too. So it just depends on what you want. So I brought this down and I'm going to kind of guide it since it did something weird there. And then I'm just going to pull it into place and pull this tight, because you don't really have anything to butt it up against, so you just pull it where you want it. And then we will grab another bead, and let's see, I'm just going to put this one next to this one so I can see what I've got and just not use exactly the same beads in the same spot. So I think here I'm going to put a leaf on because I haven't done that on this part. I did some down here, so I'm going to do some on the top on this one. I'm going to grab this color. And I have all different colors of leaves, so I can just kind of vary my colors from strand to strand. And I'm going to hold on to the tip of the leaf and pull. Pull that out and push it down. And then once I've got it where I want it, then I'm going to go ahead and tie another knot. Since I'm spacing these out, you could put a couple really close together, a couple further apart. You can vary the lengths between each one, whatever you want to do. I want to make them basically the same. So I'm going to go right about here and tie my knot. And then I'm going to put my fingernail here so it doesn't slide anywhere. And then just pull that. And now I'm ready to put my next one on. And I have a big crystal right there, I think. Let's see, not quite there, but maybe I'll go with a rondelle gemstone shape, or maybe one of these guys. I'll do one of these guys. Right there. Make my circle, pull my thread through, go into my circle, grab the bead on top of the bead, grab the string on top of the bead. Boy, I cannot speak today. And then I'm going to pull that out and just push it down. And so I'll just continue making this strand with the beads a little bit further apart on it. Okay, so now you can see that I've made my second strand and it's the same length as my first strand. And you just kind of space it and work with it until you get it about the same way. I did put another crystal on, and I did do the double knots on either side, and I was able to do it successfully. So that worked out okay. And then I'm going to grab my next strand, and I will do the same thing. I'll figure out where I want my first knot to be. And I'll put it up kind of high like I did the last one. And then I will just start putting them on again. And I think if you want to, you can put two next to each other, two beads, and then not, you can spread it out further, you can put them closer, whatever you want to do. I think I'm going to do another one with smaller beads with continuous knots on it. So I may just do like a pearl and this little crystal all the way down one strand. So I'm going to go ahead and tie my knot, and I'm just going to do a consistent strand this time. So I'm going to get pretty close here. I'll put this one here. That's pretty close to my knot. And then I am just going to start putting on pearl, crystal, and just knot them right next to each other and make this one a consistent strand of these pearls and these little crystals. So I'll pull a bunch of them out, and then I'll come back and show you. It's the same exact process. It's just that I'm going to do this one a little bit different than I did this one or that one. You want each strand to look unique and different, so it gives the bracelet a really interesting look. Okay, so I have finished making all of my strands, and I did one with big pearls and little crystals close together, a random one close together, another random close together, a big crystal, little pearl close together, two strands that are a little further apart with random. Then I'm just going to take it and kind of mix it together like this. And now I've gone 7 inches in length here, from my button to here. And then I'm going to make sure all of my strands end basically in the same place. And I'm going to go ahead and bring them all together and tie a knot. So wrap it around your fingers, bring the longer part through, and then again we need to make sure that this goes all the way to the end here. So I'm going to keep my finger in here and just slide it around my finger until I get it real close to my beads. And don't tighten it so tight you can't get your finger out. And then I'm just going to slowly pull this so that my knot is nice and tight right at the end of my beads, just like that. Let me get you closer so you can see it. And if you have any stragglers, of course you can pull each thread to make sure that they're all secure. Okay, so now it's time to end the bracelet and make a loop that will go over the button for our closure. Now there's two ways to do this, and I'm going to show you both ways. Now at the very end of my knot here, I've separated my cords according to where they were closest to each other, and I've separated them into 2 groups of 3. So I've got 3 on this side and 3 on this side. Now I've started putting 6/0 seed beads on this. And this is what this closure looks like when you put beads on the end of it. This is a 4-strand, so I was able to use an 8/0 seed bead. This is a 6-strand, and it's got one more cord, and it's hard to get through an 8/0. Well, you can't get through an 8/0. So I'm using a 6/0, and these are Tohos I'm using. They have the wider hole in the middle, so you can do this. If you don't have 6/0s or 8/0s or anything that will fit, I will show you another method in just a minute. So what I've done is I've separated the 2, and then I've taken the ends, and I've just put some glue on it and just glued the ends together a little bit, just to harden them, just on the very ends. And then I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut these 3 strands into a point. Just like this. Let me get you close so you can see. And now I can just really easily slide my beads on here. And then I can put on enough. I know with the 8/0s it was like 8 to go around the button. And I can just slide them on until I have enough on that side, and then I'll do the same thing on this side. I'll hold them together and slide my button through, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute too. Now, if you don't have beads to make this kind of closure, you don't have to. You can take your cords and still separate them into 2 sections of 3, and then just start to braid it. Put something heavy on your bracelet just so that you can anchor it down a little bit. grab your cords and just start to braid them. You're just regular, everyday braid. And you can braid them loosely or tightly or however you can get it. Just braid them nice like this. And just braid way past where you need to, because you can tie your knot and then separate them. So once you have a nice long braid like this, then you'll do the other side in a braid, and then you'll tie the knot at the end. You'll just slide it, bring it over, and make sure after you have both of them that your button will slide through both sides and tie a knot. And I'll show you that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the seed beads. So either way, you can either braid it or you can put seed beads on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and finish putting on my beads and see how many I need for the width of my button. I will go ahead and glue the threads on the other side together and cut my little point so I can string them on really easily. You might be able to just push them through without doing that, but I find, 2, 3, let's try 6. I find that it's just easier if you glue the ends together. So, and if you don't, like I said, just go ahead and braid both sides, and when we come back, you'll do exactly what I'm going to do, except for you'll have braids instead of beads. Okay, so either you'll have braids at this point, nice long ones, or you will have your beads on. Now, I have put 7/6 seed beads on either side, but this all depends upon how big your button is. And my button is this little square, and what I'm doing is I'm holding the ends very tightly together, and then I'm just going to slide my button through and make sure it fits okay. It's not really big and it's not really tight. Let me see if it, and it goes through there pretty good. It's actually a little big, but I'd rather be able to slide it on there easier. If I take one off, it might be a little tight. So anyway, that's how you determine how big you want your end to be, and you'll do the same thing with your braids. You'll just hold the ends together, figure out where your button slides together between the braids nicely, and then you just take the very end here. Hold these together nice. I kind of like to get mine to kind of poof out a little bit if I can, just to have a nice tightness there. And I am going to go ahead and wrap another knot, pull through, and bring this around my finger like this. And this is how I direct my knot. Now don't pull it so tight you can't get it off. I always do that. And then I just keep directing it down. And it takes a little practice. You could hold your tweezers in there, but I find that's really difficult to do with multiple cords. I just keep directing it until I get my knot right where I want it. And it's not that hard. It just takes a little practice. And then you can just pull each individual string like that. And now I've got a nice loop for the closure of my bracelet. So we have these extra threads hanging off here now, and we can make a cute little ending. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put a knot on, again, just like we've been doing. I'm just going to grab one, separate it away from the rest. And it's a little bit harder to tie now because they're shorter. But I'm just going to tie an overhand knot, bring this through here, and grab my tweezers, and I want this up pretty close to my knot, so I'm just going to grab through like this, hopefully you can see that, and pull my thread. Tighten my knot down where I want it, right there, and put on a bead. I think I'll put on a little pearl. And see if that'll go on there. Nope, that's not a pearl that wants to cooperate, so let me fix it. A lot of them slide on really nice, and then a lot of them don't, so see if that'll go on now. Just like that. And then I will tie another knot. And again, try to get my hands out of the way here so you can see. Same thing, grab through the loop onto the back of the bead here. I lost my knot. Let's do that again. So let's see, if I weigh these down a little bit, get them out of my way, maybe I will be less clumsy. So I'm just going to tie this knot, bring the long part through the center, just like this. And just keep in mind, I'm trying to keep my hands out of the way, so it's a little bit more difficult for me at the moment. It should be quite easy for you. Put your tweezers through the knot at the end of the bead and pull the thread, just like that. You can put several on each one if you want a long tassel at the end, however you want to do it, and then you can just go ahead and do the rest of them and then cut the threads down. So I'm going to go ahead and put little decoration on the rest of them, and then we'll come back and we'll cut those down and see how this all works. Okay, so off camera I decided I did not like the color of those seed beads that I had used. I chose them because they were the closest. I thought they'd kind of match in with these beads, the closest that I had in Toho's. But I found these check 60 seed beads, which is a smaller hole, and when I did my correction, I untied my knot and then I cut the one that I had put the pearl on off completely. And I'm just going to cut another one off real close to the knot, and then I will glue the knot to make sure that none of the threads slip out, since I'm going to cut two off. But this gives you a another option so that you can use a smaller bead if you'd like. So I'm just going to choose another one. I'm going to find the threads that stay together the best, like this, and then I'm going to cut off another one. I'm going to pull it tight, make sure it's in there in the knot tight, and I'm just going to pull this, or cut this off really close. I'll get my lights back on here. And then now I can slide on my 60 seed beads that are check, and I don't even have to glue the ends. I don't have to do anything. I can just slide them on and make enough on these two strands and enough on this two strands, just like I did before. So I had 7 of the other ones on. I may have to use 8 of these because they're a little smaller. But I'll just do it exactly the same way that I did before, tie the knot and put my little end decorations on just these 4 strands. And then when I'm finished, oops, I missed a strand. When I'm finished, I will put a little bit of glue on the knot to make sure everything holds. And I'll show you. We could do that first, actually. We could go ahead and dot some glue on there and then continue. Let's see if my messy glue here. And then continue the way that I showed you. So I'll just put some glue on here, making sure not to glue my strands together, but get some glue on. And then I'll let that dry, and then I'll go ahead and slide on my 60 seed beads, make sure it slides over my button, and tie them off just like I did before. And then I'll put some little decorations on the end, and I'll show you how it looks at the end. So there are other options on ending this too. So if you opted not to do the braids and you want to do the beads, but you cannot find beads that will fit perfectly, then you can find beads that will fit definitely over 2 strands. So you can do it this way also. Okay, so now you can see this matches in much better, looks much nicer. So I went ahead and put my 7 60 seed beads on here, and then I tied my knot with my 4 threads, and then I put a knot on and a bead and a knot, and now I'm just going to tie or cut these off real close to the knot, and I will dab a little bit of glue on each knot to make sure that they don't untie, although this thread is pretty small, so it ties pretty tight. But I'll do that anyway just to make sure. And that's what that looks like. I'll show you the whole bracelet here. Whoops, other way. There we go. And now I'm just going to go off camera and put this on and show you what it looks like on. And you can twist it if you'd like, or you can leave them separate, whatever you want, and put it on and see what it looks like. So here's what my clasping looks like. I'll show you. It's really cute. And here's what the rest of the bracelet looks like. I didn't really twist it much. I just kind of let it go however it wants to go. But you can twist it before you put it on. You can just wear it like this. But it looks really cute. It turns out really nice. And I'm going to show you how to start a necklace. So basically it's exactly the same process. We're just going to cut a different length, and we'll discuss the lengths of cord, and then I will go ahead and go off camera and make another one because it's the exact same process. But like I said, it's just in cutting the length of your cord. Okay, so now we have made a bracelet. How do we make a matching necklace? Well, exactly the same way. Another shank button and some more of your cording. But this time, you're going to cut, if you want to make a 20-inch necklace, maybe a little bit longer than that, then you're going to cut 8 feet. So you're going to go ahead and count your length of your ruler 8 times. And cut that off, and I might even give myself just a couple more inches. Maybe I'll go 8.5. Seems like an awful lot, but you need enough to tie knots. You need enough to get a decent length of necklace, and you need enough to be able to put your clasp on one end with a big knot and put your loop on the other end. And so you want extra to work with. So I've cut 8 feet of my cord, and of course as you're working with these you can figure out, you know, I don't need that much because I didn't make that long and that was way too much, or I need more. So you know, these are really simple to make, so you can always make a couple and you can make your own modifications to it. So again, I'm putting the cord on my whatever this is called. What is this called? Someone tell me. On my roll. I can't think of the word right now. Anyway, and then I'm just going to pull the length that I just cut, and I'm going to do that 2 times, and when I double that, that will make me a 6-strand necklace. So if you want to make a 12-strand, then you do this 6 times. Since I'm going to make a 6-strand, I'm going to do it 3 times. If you want to just make a 4-strand, just do it twice. And have 2 strands, because you're going to double it just like you did the bracelet. Run it through your button and center your button. And with this much cord, the way to center it, the easiest way is to put all of your ends together after you put your button on and pull the button to the center. And if you get a little knot like that, just cut a little extra and then untangle that. Just like that. Okay, so that's how you're going to do that. This is going to be my 6-strand necklace. I will put the ends together the best I can, and I will go ahead and center my button and tie my knot around my button just like I showed you for the bracelet. Start tying your beads on, and when you get the length you want, leaving a nice, probably at least 8-10 inches at the end to tie your stuff. Maybe not quite that long. I'll show you what I leave once I get there, because this is fairly new design to me. What I've made knotting many times. However, it's been a while, and every time I do it I use different size beads and a different method. So I'm just kind of showing you what you can and can't do. And you'll just have to kind of use your own initiative and figure out exactly your own creativity and figure out exactly how you want to do your own. So once I've got them together, then I'll go ahead and tie my knot and get started. And I will show you what length I make, and I will show you how I end it, just so that I don't leave you in the dark. Okay, so as you can see, I have a ton of beads left. I'm going to have to do something else with this bead soup, so maybe not take out quite that many unless you're going to do like a 12 strand or something, which I kind of intended to do, but I didn't. So anyway, this necklace, I went ahead and did all of my 6 strands. I did some of them far apart, like 3 strands with knots further apart. I did one really close together with smaller beads. And then I did a random close together and another random close together. So as I was doing it, I just tried to space my beads across so that I didn't have all the same bead in one spot. I just kind of looked at my other strands as I was doing it. Now this is going to turn out to be 22 inches long, and I have quite a bit of thread here left to work with. So I would say I have like about a foot of cords. Now they all vary in length at the end, so that's not really quite a foot. I have to the shortest, which is 10 inches. Because when you're knotting, if you're knotting smaller beads like this one here, and you're knotting them all after each bead, you're knotting more, so you're using more thread. So all of them won't turn out to be the same. That's why you want to have quite a bit of extra. So what I will do is I will just go ahead and tie my knot just like I showed you at the end, and I will end it with my 6/0 seed beads, these ones, and I'll cut off 2 of the threads, do it exactly how I showed you on the bracelet. And I may make some dangly things at the end, and I may not. I may just cut off the threads. But as I'm doing this, after I tie my knot, my first initial knot, I'll go down and I'll cut all of these the same length at the end, so I know exactly what I have to work with, and so that I can finish off my loop really nicely. So I could always cut my shortest one off after I tie my knot and use the 2 shortest ones I'll cut off and use the longer ones to put on my 6/0 seed beads and tie my final knot and do my decoration at the end if I want. You can just think through this and modify it any way you want to make it work for you. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this necklace, and I will come back. Now, when I measured this, I just laid it on my beadboard as I was making the strands. I laid it from the clasping end around so that I could see exactly how long I wanted my first strand to be, and then I made each strand thereafter the same length. So you may want to have a beadboard like this one on hand so you can just lay it across and measure it on the last notch here. So let me finish and I'll be back. So I finished my ending. I'm going to show you what it looks like. There's my bracelet. But I went ahead and decided, since I had extra thread and because I could make these longer, I would go ahead and make a little bead at the end of each one with a knot a little ways away from the clasping so that it won't stick straight out and kind of bother the neck. And this way too, it can be worn kind of to the side and to the front a little bit as a focal if so intended. If someone wants to do that, then that would be great. So this is what my ending looks like. Let me get you in. So you can be as creative as you want with these. You can end them any way you'd like. You can do the braiding like I showed you, or you can do the beads like this. You can even use 8/0 seed beads if you cut a couple of the strands off, and you can get them through. However you want to end it. I just think this turns out better than having a bunch of raw threads that you just stick your button through. I really prefer a really finished look. So that's why I worked really hard on trying to get some way to end the necklace with beads or the bracelet with beads, because it just looks better to me. That's a personal opinion. Everybody can do it any way they want to. So, anyway, this is what this necklace looks like. It turned out really pretty, I think. And this is what the bracelet looks like. And I will show you the ones I made from the bargain bead box. And that way you can see where this inspiration came from. I just had a bunch of, I tangled these up everywhere. Okay, so I untangled my beads. The piece I made from the bargain bead box. But you can see this one is just a lot more festive and different colors. And I just had a bunch of beads left in the box. And instead of trying to figure out little individual things to make with them, I just wanted to incorporate them all into one necklace. So I drew upon my past experiences when I very first started beading and remembered that I used to really like to make knotted stuff. I really made more knotted stuff than anything else. So this is the set from the bargain bead box. And this, of course, I just keep tangling these guys up, is the set from this video today, from my own personal beads. If you like any of these beads, these gemstone beads, then you can go to budgetbeadbox.com and tell Shirley that you saw some of the gemstones that I was using and you like them, and most of them came from her, so she could probably help you with that. Just shoot her an email. Anyway, that's the one I made today. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Get yourself some cord, get a bunch of beads out, and go to town. Bye-bye.